What does it mean for the world when America, the richest country on Earth, owes more than $36 trillion? This isn't just a number. It's a warning sign. The U.S. national debt has exploded to historic highs, and the ripple effects are shaking global markets, weakening currencies, and rattling investor confidence worldwide. If the U.S. stumbles under this financial pressure, could the rest of the world fall with it? In this video, we'll break it all down in simple terms and why it matters to you. Let's get started. What is America's national debt, and how did it get so high? The national debt is the total amount of money the U.S. government owes to lenders. It includes money borrowed from the public, like individuals, banks, and foreign countries, as well as money the government owes to itself through trust funds and other accounts. Right now, the debt has grown to over $36 trillion, more than the entire yearly value of everything the U.S. produces, called the Gross Domestic Product, GDP. How did the debt get so high? Over the years, the government has spent more money than it collects in taxes. This creates a deficit, which the government must borrow to cover. Several factors have caused this growing gap. For example, tax cuts that reduce government income, combined with increased spending on programs like Social Security, healthcare, and military, push the debt higher. Economic downturns like the 2008 financial crisis or the COVID-19 pandemic also force governments to borrow more to support struggling businesses and people. The debt doesn't grow on its own. It grows because the government keeps borrowing to pay interest on existing debt and cover ongoing expenses. This means debt is like a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger over time. Understanding how the debt accumulated helps us see why it's a problem that affects everyone, not just Americans, but the whole world. Why is America's debt growing so fast? America's debt is growing faster than ever before because of a mix of government decisions and economic conditions. One major cause is that the government spends a lot more money than it collects in taxes. Tax cuts introduced in recent years have lowered revenue, while spending on programs like Medicare, Social Security, and defense continues to increase. These programs are vital, but their costs keep rising, especially as more Americans retire and need support. Another factor speeding up debt growth is the interest on the debt itself. As the debt grows, the government has to pay more interest to the people and countries who lend it money. Rising interest rates make this problem worse because it costs more to borrow new money and to pay off old debt. This creates a vicious cycle where more debt means more interest payments, which means even more debt. Economic crises, like the recent COVID-19 pandemic, also force governments to borrow extra money quickly to keep the economy afloat. Emergency spending on healthcare, unemployment benefits, and business aid pushed the debt higher. While such spending helps during tough times, it adds to the long-term debt problem. In short, without changes, the debt will keep growing faster than the economy, making it harder to manage and increasing risks for future generations. How does this debt affect the U.S. economy? The enormous national debt has serious effects on America's economy. One big impact is on government spending. The more money the government owes, the more it must pay just in interest every year. Right now, interest payments are one of the largest parts of the federal budget, even bigger than spending on defense or education. This means less money is available for things like infrastructure, schools, or new healthcare programs. Another effect is borrowing costs. As debt grows, lenders may see the U.S. as a bigger risk, demanding higher interest rates to loan money. Higher rates increase costs for the government and for businesses and families who borrow money, slowing down economic growth. In the worst case, this could lead to a downgrade of the U.S. credit rating, which would further increase borrowing costs and shake investor confidence. High debt can also limit the government's ability to respond to future emergencies. When too much money is tied up in debt payments, there's less flexibility to spend on unexpected crises like natural disasters or recessions. Finally, if investors lose faith in the U.S. economy, they might reduce buying U.S. Treasury bonds. This would push up interest rates worldwide, leading to global economic instability. So, the debt isn't just a number, it affects jobs, prices, and the daily lives of millions. Why does America's debt matter to the whole world? America's national debt is not just a problem for the United States, it affects the entire world. One big reason is the US dollar's role as the world's main reserve currency. This means many countries keep large amounts of US dollars in their banks and use them for international trade. Because the US government is trusted, its debt, called treasury bonds, is considered one of the safest investments worldwide. However, as America's debt grows, some investors and countries begin to worry about whether the US can manage its money responsibly. If confidence falls, fewer people and countries will want to buy US Treasury bonds. This would force the US to offer higher interest rates to attract buyers, which makes borrowing more expensive not only for the US government, but also for businesses and families. The impact doesn't stop there. Since the US economy is deeply connected to the global economy, trouble with US debt could lead to financial instability worldwide. Higher US interest rates can cause borrowing costs to rise in other countries too. This can slow economic growth, increase the cost of loans, and create uncertainty in global markets. Countries like China and Japan hold large amounts of US debt. If the value of those bonds drops, it could hurt their economies too. Because of these connections, America's debt crisis is a global concern that can affect jobs, prices, and economic stability everywhere. What can be done to fix the debt problem? Fixing America's huge $36 trillion debt won't happen overnight. It requires careful planning, tough choices, and cooperation between leaders and citizens. The key is to find a balance between reducing government spending and increasing the money the government collects, without hurting the economy or the people who depend on government programs. One major area to address is government spending on programs like Social Security and Medicare. These programs help millions of Americans, especially seniors, but their costs are growing because of an aging population. To keep them sustainable, policymakers may need to adjust benefits gradually, such as raising the retirement age or changing how benefits are calculated. These changes must be fair so that they don't harm vulnerable people. Increasing government revenue is also important. This can be done by reforming the tax system to close loopholes, reduce tax evasion, and ensure that wealthy individuals and corporations pay their fair share. However, raising taxes too much or too quickly could slow economic growth, so tax changes need to be balanced carefully. Another approach is to promote economic growth. A stronger economy means more jobs, higher incomes, and greater tax revenue without raising tax rates. Investing in education, technology, and infrastructure can help the economy grow in the long term. Finally, political cooperation is essential. Solving the debt crisis requires leaders from different parties to work together and make long-term plans, even if the solutions are difficult or unpopular. Without unity and clear policies, the debt problem will continue to grow, risking the future financial security of the US and the world. America's $36 trillion debt is not just a national problem, it's a global threat that could affect economies everywhere. The road ahead is full of challenges, but smart decisions and teamwork can help avoid a financial crisis. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more clear, easy-to-understand explanations about the world's biggest issues. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay informed and take care.